I'm Justine, if you don't know me yet, but if you're on my live stream, I kind of hope that you do. And if you're catching this on a replay, just skip to the 2-minute mark because I'm just gonna wait for people to come in and say hello and that kind of stuff. And that always kind of annoys me when I have to sit there and watch that when I'm watching a replay of a live. So just skip to the 2-minute mark. I promise you won't miss anything. So hello everyone that's joining me live. I'm excited to be here and talk a little bit about paper organization. And there's a reason why I'm going to talk about paper organization, because at the full hour, so in 10 minutes, I'm going to make a big announcement. If you're a newsletter subscriber of mine, you already know about it, but everyone else doesn't, and I'm very, very excited. But I thought I'd jump in for some paper organization tips here live to kind of set the mood for what the big announcement is going to be. All right, so if anybody in the comments wants to tell me where you're joining from, I'd love to see that. I always find it super interesting to see who's watching. And hello, Orlando. Oh, how nice. You're so close to my parents. They're snowbirds in the winter down in Florida. Yeah, so pop into the comments where you're from, and I'd also love to know, what is it in your craft room that you struggle organizing with the most? I always find that very interesting to see. Minnesota, Alabama, California, Scottsdale. Oh, nice. All right, so at the 2-minute mark, which is in just 20 seconds from now, we're going to get started. And I think enough have joined in or had a chance to join in by now, so I don't like to take too long to do the introduction. So I see lots of names that I know. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. I'm gonna try and talk through this, and I feel like I have a hair in my mouth, but you know, it's weird to take it out. Snowy Wyoming. Oh, exciting. I'm just watching Yellowstone right now. I feel like I live in Wyoming in the evenings. Or is it Montana? No, Montana. They're on the border of Wyoming, aren't they? I just started it, so. All right. Oh, and a few from Canada and England. How exciting. All right, we're going to get started. So welcome. I decided to jump on and talk about some tips for paper organization. And if you're just joining, I mentioned that when we get to the full hour, so for me, it's 6 p.m., noon Eastern time, I'm going to be making a big announcement. So be sure to stick around for the next 8 minutes. And I wanted to talk a little bit about paper organization. And I'm not going to do any like crazy demos. We're just going to talk about some tips that I find super helpful and that I've learned over the years that I just wanted to share, because I always find paper to be something that so many people struggle with, right? So the one thing that I tend to struggle with, or I have struggled with over the years, is one, too much paper, and two, I always tend to just grab a full sheet of cardstock rather than going for my scraps. And I never really had a good way of organizing my scraps. And I've tried so many things throughout the year, and I think I have it nailed down. So I wanted to share that today. So my first little tip is, no matter how you store your cardstock, whether it's in magazine holders, job ticket pockets, page protectors, drawers, or you have one of those great paper racks like at a scrapbook store, then try and make it easier to access the scraps before you can access the full sheets. So I try and make a little rule with myself, is that I can only grab a full sheet when I'm going to be cutting a card base. Okay, if I'm going to be die cutting, making a card panel, something like that, I try to go for the scraps first. And if I make the scraps more easily accessible than the full sheets, meaning they're usually on top of the full sheets, then I tend to grab them more often. Number 2, I toss my scraps that are small, unless it's some sort of extremely specialty cardstock, like a really cool pattern paper that I don't have any more of, or vellum or acetate, something like that. If it's less than, I would say, a standard word die, so I would say 3 inches by 2.5, I'm tossing it. I know it's a bit of a waste, and people like to save every little inch of scrap paper that they have, but I get overwhelmed by these scraps, and if I can only cut a tiny little circle out of it, or most of my word dies aren't going to fit on it, I'm probably not going to use it. So toss. I give you permission to toss it. The third thing has a little bit less to do with organization and more towards my cardstock buying habits. But one of them is that I don't buy cardstock anymore from companies that don't offer a sample pack. Okay, so there are quite a few companies that will give you 1 or 2 sheets of every single color. And I like to order one of those first. And then I will buy like a 10 pack or a 20 pack, whatever it happens to come with, when I actually use those 2 pieces of colored cardstock. So you know me, you know the cards that I create. I create lots on white card bases, and if I'm gonna create some sort of background, I do it with stamps anyway. So pattern paper I don't purchase too often, and colored cardstock I mainly use for die cutting. Not to say that I never use colored cardstock, but I just wanted to kind of point that out, that the sampler pack to me is more helpful, and then I'll actually buy the individual colors if I use those 2 sheets. And guess what? Out of the Concord and Ninth is the cardstock of choice right now. I probably only ordered 2 or 3 actual full packs of cardstock. Dark blue, dark purple, and green and red because of Christmas. All right. It is okay to get frustrated with your paper scraps or your paper stash and donate it or toss it. Obviously, if it's full sheets of paper, donate it. Bring it to a daycare, bring it to a kindergarten, bring it to a school, something like that. But I do have to say that was probably the best thing I did when I went from having like a crazy full craft room to this small little craft room, was I just took the paper, I boxed it up, gave it away, and then started fresh with my cardstock samplers. And it might sound like a bit of a waste of money, but to be honest with you, to get rid of that stress and that paper stack that was larger than me was really worth it. Okay, so my next tip is if you're storing your paper vertically, so it's in a magazine holder or it's on a calyx shelf or whatever you happen to have it, make sure that the holder that the paper is in is full. This applies to anything bigger than 6x6, I would say. 6x6 paper packs are usually okay. But if you don't have your magazine holder or whatever it's stored in full, it's gonna start to kind of sag over time, and then you're not gonna wanna use it. So make sure that it's full, and it doesn't have to be full of cardstock. Just like throw magazines in there or books or something, just to fill it out. Okay, so going on to my next tip, if you choose to put scraps together, schedule a craft time to use it. So I have a little drawer. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. This is where I keep my things like leftover die cuts, small strips of paper, things like that. And I store it just all together. It's not organized in any way. But that drawer, as soon as that's full, schedule yourself a little craft session to just try and use up what's in the box. And then guess what? It's okay to toss that box too. And one thing that I just recently did, because I told you generally my scraps are white cardstock or black cardstock, is I now have a small little bin under my die cutting machine that I can grab out of, and it's just white and black, so that I can grab something really easily. And I've been using up my scraps a lot more because they're literally directly there. And if I'm cutting scraps, I'm usually die cutting from them, right? So that's helped out a lot. But for the most part, for colored cardstock, I store my full sheets together. You can see here, I have a little unit. I found it in the attic of my school, and it has individual drawers for paper. So I store my full sheets and then all the scraps on top. But I have stored them before in job ticket holders. I prefer they're almost like a page protector, but they're open on the right side and the top. Those ones I prefer if you're gonna stack them in a magazine rack or something like that, or a magazine holder. And I always just stack the full sheets and then all of the scraps in the front. Okay, and it doesn't matter how you store your paper as long as it works for you. So there's magazine racks, you could do job ticket holders, page protectors, paper racks, whatever it is, but just be realistic for your space. Because if you have a tiny space, then you're not gonna be wanting like a big unit like this that holds, 10 pieces of cardstock or whatever in your drawer. And it just takes up a ton of space. So this unit here is big, but it's a piece of furniture of mine now. That was held before in 4 magazine holders. And now it takes up this much space. So just be realistic in your space and your craft room. How do you want to store it? Like, how much space do you want it to take up, right? And magazine holders really are really great, cheap, alternative, inexpensive things to having something like this. Okay, and the question is, do you separate your paper packs? So there's 2 ways for this. So do you separate your paper packs? So for cardstock, yes, I separate my paper packs by color. if I have a paper pad that includes solids and pattern paper, I like to keep them together because usually those reds coordinate with those reds and those pinks work together with those pinks and that kind of thing. So generally paper packs I keep together, and then individual cardstock I separate by itself. And yeah, so those are my 9 general tips for paper organization. I hope that might have helped one of you, and it is now the full hour in like a couple of seconds. Now it is. There we go. So I get to make the big announcement. I have been working on this for over 6 months with Laurel Beard, which many of you know. And we were thinking to ourselves, we wanted to do a virtual event. We wanted to do something that was free. We wanted to do something that was unique. And paper organization is something or not paper organization, but craft room organization in general is something we're extremely passionate about. And we know that there are so many of you out there that organize more than you craft, or maybe have stopped crafting because you're just in this disaster hoarder situation of craft supplies. And, you know, I talk to people who are part of my Craft Room Chaos Conquered class quite often, and I hear the struggles of paper crafting organization, which is why I'm announcing the Paper Crafters Get Organized Summit. So this summit is a 3-day virtual event, begins on April 21st, which is a Friday, until April 23rd, a Sunday. And there are going to be 27 expert craft speakers, myself and Laurel included, but we have others on there like Paige Taylor Evans, we have Ardith Percy Robb, we have Tiffany Solario, a lot of the names that you know and love, as well as a few that come from other paper crafting industries like scrapbookers and watercolorists and artists that are all coming together to give you tips and tricks on paper crafting organization, whether it's something very specific like stencil organization, or how to design your craft room, or how to make things fit in your bedroom like Natasha Foot's subject is. And you can get your free ticket by heading to the video description below and clicking my link. And I am very, very, very excited about this event. So the event is free if you attend between April 21st to 23rd. You don't have to be around the whole time. You have 24 hours to watch the videos for that day. So on Friday, they'll be released at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And those 8 videos or so that are being released will be watchable for 24 hours. And then on Saturday, new videos will pop up. And on Sunday, more videos will pop up for 3 straight days of paper crafting organization. And our goal is to help make your crafty place your happy place again, help turn your craft room into a place that you absolutely love again, that you can be creative in, because guess what? I've watched all the presentations, and it's not about having a picture perfect craft room. It's not about having your own craft room or your own craft space. As you can see, I craft in a hallway. It is about crafting fundamentals, organization fundamentals, and it is also all about the same goal that we all have, no matter whether we're messy crafters or picture perfect crafters. It's all about finding your items. That is our goal, of course. All crafters. You want to be able to find the thing that you want to create with. And you can create in the chaos, or you can have everything perfectly organized. It doesn't really matter. We have so many amazing tips, speakers, experts, and you're going to learn a ton. And it is going to be an absolute blast. So I hope you enjoyed the tips for paper craft organization. And I really hope you're going to join me for the Paper Crafters Paper Crafters Get Organized Summit. It's all going to be about success too. And that we all get the space of our dreams, regardless of whether that looks like that's realistic to what we have and own our budget, and, you know, a place that we feel inspired by, that we could be creative in, and everything like that. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to sign off now. Grab your free ticket in the video description below. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'm happy to answer them. Bye for now.